The symbolic revolution that separated Homo sapiens from our evolutionary cousins was more consequential than we've long believed. When multiple human species walked Earth simultaneously, we weren't the obvious candidates for evolutionary success. Neanderthals possessed physical advantages that should have given them the edge in the brutal competition for survival. Archaeological evidence reveals that Neanderthals had approximately 10% larger brain cases than Homo sapiens, with particularly well-developed occipital lobes that enhanced visual processing and spatial awareness. Their robust frames featured barrel-shaped chests with larger lung capacity, providing better oxygen utilization in cold environments. Skeletal analysis shows they possessed significantly greater upper body strength. A Neanderthal adolescent would likely overpower a modern adult human in physical contests. For hundreds of thousands of years, these advantages served Neanderthals well. They hunted large game including woolly rhinoceros and mammoth, fashioned sophisticated stone tools, controlled fire, built shelters, and even buried their dead. Analysis of their dental calculus reveals they used medicinal plants and may have self-medicated with pain-relieving compounds from poplar trees. They were intelligent, technologically capable, and physically superior. Yet despite these advantages, Neanderthals vanished while our ancestors thrived. This evolutionary puzzle becomes even more striking considering Neanderthals had successfully adapted to European conditions for over 300,000 years before Homo sapiens arrived from Africa. They had survived multiple ice ages and interglacial periods through remarkable adaptations. The evidence points to a cognitive advantage that Homo sapiens possessed, a qualitative difference in how our species processed and communicated information. This difference is visible in the archaeological record through the explosion of symbolic artifacts associated with early Homo sapiens populations. At Fiumane Cave in Italy, archaeologists discovered perforated seashells dating to 47,000 years ago that show where patterns indicating they were strung together as beads. The shells originated from coastlines over 100 kilometers away, demonstrating both long-distance trade networks and the importance of symbolic display. Similar ornaments appear across Homo sapiens sites throughout Africa, Europe and Asia during this period, yet remain exceptionally rare at Neanderthal sites. The contrast becomes clearer in figurative art. The Lion Man statue discovered in Germany's Hohenstein-Stadel cave, a sculpture combining human and animal features, dates to approximately 40,000 years ago and represents something revolutionary: the capacity to imagine and depict things that don't exist in the natural world. This ability to create and communicate fictional concepts appears uniquely associated with Homo sapiens communities. Comparative analysis of Neanderthal material culture shows a striking pattern. While they produced sophisticated tools, evidence of symbolic expression remains minimal. The few examples of potential Neanderthal symbols, such as the etched lines found at Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar, lack the systematic patterning seen in Homo sapiens artifacts. When Neanderthals did adopt symbolic behaviors like creating personal ornaments, this typically occurred after contact with Homo sapiens populations, suggesting cultural borrowing rather than independent invention. Neanderthals possessed language-related genes similar to our own, but they didn't integrate symbolic thinking into their societies with the same transformative effects. Symbolic communication fundamentally restructured how our ancestors navigated environmental challenges. Isotope analysis reveals Neanderthal individuals typically spent their entire lives within a radius of 20 to 30 kilometers, with minimal evidence of long-distance migration or resource exchange. In contrast, Homo sapiens sites frequently contain materials from hundreds of kilometers away: amber, shells, and distinctive stone types that traveled through extensive trading networks. These networks were crucial during environmental crises. When a volcanic eruption devastated Central Europe around 40,000 years ago, covering vast areas in ash, Homo sapiens populations maintained connections across significant distances. Sites from this period contain materials originating from outside the affected zones, indicating that surviving groups shared resources with those in devastated regions. Neanderthal populations show evidence of repeated localized extinctions during similar crises. Without extensive social networks that could provide assistance or information about alternative resources, Each Neanderthal group faced environmental challenges alone. When local conditions became unsurvivable, there were few options for assistance. The symbolic revolution also manifested across time. Homo sapiens developed sophisticated ways to store information across generations. The cave paintings at sites like Lascaux and Chauvet encode detailed information about animal behavior, seasonal patterns, and environmental knowledge. The consistent use of these sites over thousands of years suggests they functioned as information repositories, accessible to multiple generations. These painted caves served as memory banks where knowledge could be stored and retrieved across centuries, like bridges spanning the otherwise impassable chasms of time. While each Neanderthal community existed as an isolated island of knowledge that disappeared when its members died, Homo sapiens built an interconnected archipelago of information that survived even when individual groups perished. Simple geometric patterns might encode entire landscapes with resources and dangers, serving as memory aids for transmitting complex knowledge. These systems allowed Homo sapiens to preserve critical survival information across hundreds of generations, creating an unprecedented advantage. This capacity for symbolic thought transformed how our ancestors organized socially. Symbolic systems like totems, kinship classifications, and shared mythologies allowed groups to recognize and cooperate with unrelated individuals who shared their symbolic system. This symbolic tribalism enabled Homo sapiens to form flexible, extensive alliances that transcended immediate family groups. Perhaps most significantly, symbolic communication allowed Homo sapiens to coordinate group actions at unprecedented scales. Rock art depicting communal hunts with dozens of participants illustrates sophisticated cooperative strategies requiring precise planning. Exactly the kind of complex social orchestration that symbolic communication facilitates. Genetic evidence tells us that Neanderthals didn't simply disappear. They interbred with Homo sapiens, contributing approximately 1 to 4% of the genome of non-African humans today. But as a distinct population, they vanished, while Homo sapiens expanded across virtually every environment on Earth. The decisive factor wasn't physical strength or raw intelligence, but rather the capacity to build collective intelligence through symbolic systems that connected individuals across both space and time.